Humans, what have you learned? I was programmed to beat you. Same mistakes. I was programmed to beat you. Humans, what have you learned? I was programmed to beat you.
Sundays, but here we are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. Hello, 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 and welcome to FRLT for Season 2. It is time for Round 3 of Tier 1. We return. Cox does join me, but he's having some Xbox problems. So is, as I've heard, a lot of people. A lot of people are having a lot of console problems at the moment. We come to Imola for Round 3 of the season. And I've got a nice track map to show you guys. Here it is. There's 3 sectors, 4.909 kilometers, 3 miles long, 19 turns, 1 DRS zone down the pit straight. Up and down, quite up and down hills in Imola. Here is the calendar. As you can see, round 3, it is Imola. We're going to actually go straight into the racing, by the way, because tonight we've had a little bit of a problem, and I do apologize for the delay that we've had due to some problems. It's due to Xbox services that currently been down at the moment for the last little bit. They have been down, so I do apologize for the lateness of the stream. I know we're not usually this late here in FRLT. Let me get on game sound for you guys, because you guys would like to hear some game sound for once. So we are here at Imola, of course. It's an 18-minute qualifying, which will be followed by a long bit of a race, actually. I can't remember how many laps it is going to be. But as you can see, Ellis the Geekin, also known as Ellis the Great, is the first driver out on track here tonight. He's coming round, coming through the hairpin. He's not the first driver out. It is actually Welsh Jack, CRE Welsh Jack, who is the first driver out on track for qualifying here tonight. Quite interesting to see that, of course. I could see, oh my god, I have seen a lot of people, chatting in the chat. I can't see the chat right now, so I do apologise. I can't see it. So, we're going to be watching as Welsh Jack is the first driver to start a lap here in Imola and for round 3 of Tier 1. There has been a couple of problems. Xbox services, live services, everything just seems to be down with Xbox at the moment. That's one of the reasons why my co-commentator Cox is not currently here. He is here, he's just currently muted. So coming around to start off the lap here in Imola, coming through this sort of long, bit of curvy straight. He's going to have a car on the right-hand side. I think that was his, I think that might have been a TTRE car. We're coming through turn 1, 2, and now through turn 3. Very quick and very fast section. Coming now down towards turn 4 and 5. Fast left, right. He's going to go onto the gravel. He keeps it going. Doesn't invalidate into the hairpin now. We've seen some moves. Michael Schumacher, of course, pushing Juan Pablo Montoya onto the grass quite a long time ago, about 20 years ago, which is quite a while. Now coming through the left-hander, very fast, fastest corner actually on the entire circuit. Now heading down to this right-hander, followed by a tighter right-hander, which goes uphill. Quite difficult to get the traction right around this track. Now heading down towards the chicane, where of course Charles Leclerc lost it all the way back in 2022, and that was the start of the downfall of his championship. But it is actually an invalidation for Welsh Jack, as he ultimately gets invalidated on the chicane. We'll return to Ellis the Geekin. He's the next one. We're going to pick up actually almost exactly where we left off with Welsh Jack. Now heading down into the final 2 corners, into the left-hander. Penultimate corner, followed now by the final corner. Riding onto the curb slightly, using up all of his EOS as he comes up to the line. Ellis the Geekin is going to put in a 1 minute 13.624 and a very strong lap time from MAR to start off the session. And not too bad at all. You can see AMS speed is on a lap. I think we have a... I think that's an ABE car that's coming around. That is Safas Fly. He's invalidated on his lap, so he's not going to be pushing. I think the next driver to cross the line would be Noxia for 12 Esports. That's not worked out either. I think we have... I don't know who we actually have crossing the line next. I think we might have an orange car, and that's Takubi. Yep, Takubi's the next one to actually complete a lap. Here comes Takubi up to the line. He struggles, only a 1 minute 14.517 for a lap time. and that is P3, but that's immediately beaten by AMS Speed, who goes P2 with a 1 minute 13.751. And of course, he did race last race as well for AMS, so it's back-to-back tier 1 races for him. Let's hope he can pull off what he did in Mexico, of course, which was a very big feat to do. I think the next car we have up to the line is... I think that's AMS Wards. He's invalidated though, so it will be... I think that is... that was actually GSRE Patrick. I think that is the DLRFP1 car that crosses the line. He goes P4 into a very low 14. We've got Saphir's Fly, who does go up to P3, just beating Callum 75 up to the line as well. Very close together there in the grid order. We've got Noxia, who's just invalidated on his lap. We do have NTN, same team, yes, different livery, but there's been a couple of problems, so we are going to be forgiving at the stewards here tonight with the liveries because there have been technical problems outside of the control of us, of course, which I do understand for a lot of people is quite frustrating that there have been these problems here tonight, of course. It is always frustrating to have problems like this. But now, currently, heading down, Ramon thinks 12.8 will be pole position. That's a bold, bold claim from you, my friend. Very bold claim. So far, session not going too badly. We can see Takubi, reigning champion, slowest of the drivers to set a lap. But we're going to watch Rising Moon for a little bit. He's on a lap right now. Interesting, of course, Rising Moon, he's drove quite a bit last season. He's driving a bit this season as well. Now heading round towards the right-hander, up through the little hill chicane. Very good so far from Rising Moon in ART. Let's see what he's going to do as he comes round to the final two corners. The little double left that he's got to negotiate now as he comes round. He goes all the way up to the track limits. Of course, Rising Moon here for ART. Quite interesting to see Rising Moon return. It's always nice to see Old Faces return as Rising Moon goes 1,000th of a second faster than Ellis the Geekin, and Rising Moon goes to the top of the timings, 1 minute 13.623. The battle for provisional pole is definitely on at the moment, so make sure not to miss out on that right now. So looking further down the order, I think we've got we have Sonic for DLRFP1. He's on a lap at the moment. He really needs to get together a lap. DLRFP1, of course, one of the only teams, the only team actually on this season yet to score a point. Very different from their Season 1 campaign. They were incredibly strong in the first 2 races of the season. Really did well. I think they also claimed a podium in that time. But there goes Sonic up to P6, just ahead of his teammate. 14.028 is lap time set by Sonic at the moment. We've then got TTRE Henry. He proved himself last race, same as his teammate, who is TTRE Elite, same as last week as well. This man's been here for a few weeks, same as Elite. You can see Henry's going to come into the pits. Quite a few drivers on outlaps at the moment. I think Ellis Geekin's just invalidated. He was improving. We've got quite a few drivers on outlaps. I think 12 NTN has just started the lap. Let's see how he's going to do heading down through Sector 1. This is quite important for 12 esports. They had a very strong race in Mexico, of course. They found themselves further up in the championship, which is, of course, very important. And I have remembered that I did forget to show you guys the championship standings. But I will show you them between qualifying the race, which will be not too far away and won't be too long. But 12 esports need another strong finish here, of course. Their first race was a little bit on and off for them. They need to have a good race here. So far, neither of their drivers setting a lap time, both invalidating in all of their runs. You can see NTN on the edge of grip for 12 esports in that very bright sort of purple/pink car heading round the chicane. He's going to get a bit of a toe off of, I think, a TTRE car. Is that TTRE car going to get out the way? Yes, he does, but he still gets a bit of a tow. That could actually be his teammates. That could be NTN's teammate, Noxia, who is running the wrong livery. I think that was his teammate, Noxia. And now, heading across the line, 12 NTN goes P3. And within half a tenth of the fastest lap time. So very, very, very close from NTN, but just not enough at the moment. Saphir's Fly, of course, P5. We just saw Welsh Jack. He did a 1 minute 25. I don't think he was pushing, though. Noxia is just invalidated. TTR Elite is going to be coming up to the line next. Let's see what he's going to do. I know we only have 16 drivers here tonight, of course, due to some of the problems with the Xbox servers. We would have had a full grid. But heading around the final corner, TTR Elite goes fastest of them all. 1 minute 13.293. And no help from his teammate either in his laps. So quite interesting to see. Elite coming out fastest at the moment, and by quite a bit as well, by over 0.3 of a second he's fastest. So he's definitely finding some time in the lap where others aren't. Looking further back, Callum, I think, just improved on his lap. Saphir's Fly is improving massively. He's found about 0.7. Let's see what he's going to do. Saphir's Fly goes fastest into a 1 minute 13.1. First driver to reach it. We might be reaching the 1 minute 12s in this qualifying session, but so far, ABE on pole position. They took pole position last time, and they could be taking pole position once again here tonight. We'll have to see how this will go, but there's still a lot on the line. There's still a lot of time to go in this qualifying. Still another 6.5 minutes left. Looking to the next car, Welsh Jack just improved. He went to P6, 1 minute 13.696. A lot of drivers in the 0.6s at the moment, including Ellis the Geek and Rising Moon, NTN, and Welsh Jack himself. Who else is currently on the lap? Nobody. I don't think anybody. I think Takubi might be on a fast lap, but he's got a car in the way. That was, I think that was actually, that might, I'm not sure who that actually was, but we've got Gauzy coming up to the line. He's improving massively. Up to the line, across the line. He also makes into the 1 minute 13.6s. He goes P7. So very good there from Gauzy to go up into that position for TIR. Exactly what he needed. Again, I do apologize for the small lack of drivers, 4 drivers. There's been some Xbox server problems literally within the last half an hour of us getting ready for this. So we have not had any time to check anything, to get anything working. So I do apologize for that little problem. But we still have 16, and we will still be running full points, and all teams are still in, as there goes TTRE Henry. He can only go P11. So not the best of lap times from Henry there. Not exactly what he'll be looking for. Noxia just went P14 still. Alpha, Kevin not doing a lap so far. I don't think anybody is on a lap right now, except Rising Moon. He is, because he's just gone into a 13.2, and he's just gone P2 on the grid. Very nice from the ART man. Exactly what he would have been wanting here tonight. Just always what you want to have. Very interesting. I think we're going to be having quite an interesting fight. If you guys are enjoying the stream, please think about subscribing, leaving a like. Only if you guys are enjoying. And I know you guys will be enjoying this. But still looking around the grid, a few drivers have tried another lap. They've been validated, though. Everybody else in the pit, Speed, he's just come out on an outlap. He's the only driver, actually, who's about to start his, I think this might be his final run in qualifying here, so it'll be quite interesting to see what he's going to do. So I think let's run on board with AMS Speed for this very, very fast lap. Hopefully he can do better. He didn't qualify well last race in Mexico, but he did find himself inside of the top 4. Let's see if he can try and qualify better and maybe take on a podium this week round. Coming down the pit straight, quite a short pit straight actually. Now, heading into turn 1, he throws the car in through turn 2. He clambers over the curb a bit too much. And that is an invalidation for Speed. And that's exactly what he won't be wanting here tonight. It's exactly what you don't want to be having at this point. These are always the problems you have around this track, are invalidations, are struggling, are things like that. But we have another driver who will be starting lap very soon, and that's also the man of Callum 75. He's heading round quite nicely. I think he is for TIR. I do believe he is TIR. So yeah, so TIR, I think he is. If I am correct. Let me double check. I don't know anymore. I don't actually know. So, as you can see, we've got Callum heading round. He's going to be starting off his lap. Literally, if he gains 0.2 of a second, he can go from being P10 to being P4 on the grid. If he just gains 0.2 of a second, he's going to have a car in his way. Nicely gets out of the way, though, from the DLR FP1 driver. Heading round the left-right now. Heading down towards the hairpin. This is quite tricky for braking. He's slightly off of his original time. He's 19 thousandths slower than his personal best. So he is struggling a little bit through that middle sector. Through that first sector, he's obviously not finding the same amount of time. But we'll see as he heads down. He's invalidated. Invalidation for Callum there. And it's quite a disappointing one as well. Quite a lot of drivers heading out of the pits, getting ready to get going again. I think Saphasfly is on a lap. I want to actually see what Saphasfly is going to do on his lap. He's currently fastest. Will he dip the car into the 13.0s, let alone a 1 minute 12? That would be very, very good if he could dip it into the 1 minute 12s. And to be honest, I think would almost confirm qualifying on pole for him. But he's invalidated. He's invalidated just before the end of Sector 1. That's a big mistake from Saphasfly. This could put his pole position all out of order. Now we can see Ellis the Geekin. He's coming round. I think there's some other cars that are going round. Ellis the Geekin's improving. I'm trying to find the next driver who's crossing the line. Wards, he's invalidated. Trying to find somebody who is on a lap and late in the lap, actually. And I think the latest is actually Ellis the Geekin, by the way. He is the latest. Let's see what he's going to do. Heading around the right. And now another right. The double right. Does he get it right? Yes, he does. Because he clambers over the curb. Using all of the curb. Using all of the track possible. He's going to have a few cars in his way, though. He's going to have... I think that is AMS Speed he's going to have in front of him. And he's going to have another 2, 3 more cars in the way. One car gets out of the way for him. Is CRE car going to get out the way? No. You can see cars getting in the way. Traffic in the way. This is the risk. Will Ellis the Geekin improve? He's going to be getting slipstreaming up to the line. Ellis the Geekin actually goes slower. And that looks like it will be the end. Welsh Jack just went P4. He makes his way up into P4 with a 1 minute 13.312. Very nice there. We're going to be looking to Callum, who now makes it P6. An improvement there. Gauzy also improves. He makes it up to P5. I think we just saw Patrick. No, I think it was the other car, Sonic, who just went P12. Takubi going P7. Very strong there from him. I think the next car to cross the line is Noxia. Is it? There's another car. Am I missing? Am I missing a car? No, Wards retires. That's actually Wards, sorry. That was Wards. I absolutely missed that. Quite a few drivers coming into the pits now. Some drivers feeling like they're done on their with their session. We do have Henry, who's going slowly. He's invalidated. I think he'll be done, of course, with his session. So that could be it for him at the moment. Saphas Fly's coming around. He's not invalidated. Is he improving on his lap, though? He invalidated at the end of Sector 1 on his last run. Let's see what he can do as he comes up to the line. Is he going to improve? No, he's not. He's going to be 77,000 slower. Rising moves into the pits. Same as Elite. Looks like everybody's done. Gauzy, I don't think he's pushing. Geekin, Ellis the Geekin is off. I think that might be the end of qualifying. I do think that is the end. I think that is qualifying over unless... No, nobody is pushing. That does mean... Is there any cars actually pushing out on track? No, NTN isn't. Nobody, I think, is actually pushing. So in the end, this means AB Saphirfly is on pole position here for round 3 in Imola. And ultimately, that means another pole position for ABE. Their second of Season 2. Absolutely amazing to see from ABE. Exactly what they would have been wanting, of course. It's always what you want to have at this point, is to get a pole position like that once again. Wow, I have no words for that. The way that ABE's done it again, taking a pretty good pole position as well, having some time in it, of course. So here is the order. ABE Saphirfly on pole position, followed by Rising Moon, TTRE Elite once again on the front 2 rows, Welsh Jack 4th, AMS Speed 5th, Gallsy 6th, Ellis the Geek in 7th, Takubi 8th, Callum 75 9th, 12 NTN in 10th, Patrick in 11th, TTRE Henry in 12th, Sonic in 13th, Noxia 14th, AMS Wards in 15th, and a bad qualifying there, followed by Alpha Kevin. Absolutely crazy end to qualifying, and a very good one for Saphirfly, of course. So, we are going to be getting going in the next 3 minutes. 3 minutes until we get going. So, let me show you guys a couple of things. First of all, here are the standings of the first 2 races. AMS are on top of the standings. They are currently first with 55 points, followed by ABE and TTRE. Like I said, 12 Esports having a really strong race last time round, ultimately getting them all the way up into 5th in the Constructors. But let's return now back to the race, and as we're going to be getting going in the next few minutes. Interesting thing for this race, of course, there's only one DRS zone on this track, which of course makes racing a lot harder. So far, we've had 2 different winners from 2 different races, and 2 different constructors also win, with CRE and AMS both winning races. At the moment, AMS are looking really out of position, which isn't going to help them constructors-wise. One of their drivers has qualified 14th out of 14th or 15th. I think he's qualified 14th out of 16 drivers. So at the moment, it's a really rough one there for AMS. They need to get both their drivers into the top 10. They did it last time. Can they do it again? There are 4 less drivers on the grid, but even though there are 4 less drivers, this is a much harder track to overtake on, which is going to be the whole difference. Mexico, round 1, very different to this. Round 1, very different to this. Round 1 and round 2, very different compared to here in Imola. And so this is where the main difference is going to be seen. Can the drivers still put together overtakes when it's needed? Can they do it? Will they do it? That's the big question. Please let me know down below who you think was not only the best driver in qualifying, but also let me know who is your favourite to win the race here tonight. Because there is a lot to come. There is a lot of racing to happen. But yeah, like I was saying, Mexico was an interesting race. Really came down to the wire. Same as Belgium. But we've gone to a completely opposite track compared to those 2. With Mexico, you can overtake down the pit straight. Turn 1, turn 2, 3. Throughout sort of half the lap, you can actually overtake. Compared to Imola, where really it's the pit straight and maybe a hairpin that you can really overtake. So this is where it's going to make a big difference. We're going to be getting going in the next couple of seconds, actually. In the next couple of seconds, we're going to be getting going. So make sure you guys are ready for a lot of action, because there is a lot to come. So, drivers are going to be getting going. They've been told to ready up. Everything is now on the line. And I can hear the beeping. And we will be getting going to start off here in Imola. It is ABE on pole. And it will be coming down to the wire for this race. So now, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fire lights. And away we go here in Imola for FRLT Season 2 Tier 1. Here for round 3. Coming down towards turn 1. Safa's Fly has made it work. He's keeping it working. He's got to stay in front. There's a bit of too wide action. There's a lot of too wide action. A couple of drivers going side by side. A little bit of contact further back. Welsh Jack trying to make his way up past Rising Moon up into P2. We're going to look further back. You can see Welsh Jack, he's made his move up into P2. That's a good start for CRE. They really need a good race because last time around they did not have one at all with no points scored in Mexico. So that's a good start. AMS Speed also having a really good start. Gauzy making his way up into P5. A couple of drivers further back. They are making all the moves possible. You can see Nox here. There's 3 wide. There's a driver around. That is Sonic in the background. He's gone round. It's a virtual safety car. And we are already, the racing already slowed down, already neutralized within just one sector. And there's contact further behind. It looks... What happened there? Wards having contact with Kevin and then having contact with Patrick. What has happened there? Sonic doesn't have a front wing. 3 drivers without front wings at the moment. Virtual safety car, so that will help a couple of people. But that was a really clear getaway. That was an incredibly clear getaway from Safa's Fly. Exactly what he would have been wanting. Of course, he knows when it will stop. It says virtual safety car. But there's a safety car out on track, I do believe. I'm not sure why it says virtual safety. My game is breaking. And there is a safety car out. I think it's for the amount of collisions we actually had. Yet, I'm actually looking, by the way, at... I have the game notes on here for how the safety car works. Because questions have been thrown up about the safety car. But it is actually depending on how many incidents happen. So if 3 incidents actually happen... So for instance, because there were incidents that happened under virtual safety car, it means we do get a safety car. So that is, yeah, Ramon, that is 1 safety car already. You predicted 3 safety cars. Oh, it's going to be a long, long day with 3 safety cars, if you're right. But to be honest, there were collisions under virtual safety car, so it was expected. But you can see there are the possible race strategies, mediums to hards, or mediums, then hards, which is quite an odd strategy. No soft tyres is what the game says. The game doesn't like the idea of soft tyres. But let's have a look at what tyres everybody has gone for. It's a good mix, actually. There's definitely more mediums, but there's also hard tyre runners in there. For instance, 3 out of the top 4 on those hard tyres. See, does it work? No, it doesn't. Pause and then unpause. It doesn't work. I thought you would have been right there, Timon. I thought you would have been right. Just taking some advice. But no. Ramon, I feel so bad for you. Wards, of course, AMS Wards, having a terrible start. But he is lucky because he's actually gotten a safety car because of that, which has allowed him to catch back up. Without the safety car, if it was a virtual safety car, he would have had problems. If it was a virtual safety car. So things have maybe turned around for the better for AMS here, but still P3 and P14 still 15 points picked up. Of course, CRE only on 25 points in their campaign. They've dropped down to, I think, 4th in the constructors now. So they're struggling a little bit in their constructors position. Safa's Fly as well. Leading for ABE, of course, ABE trailing 2nd in the standings. This win would, of course, at the moment, this win would on its own let ABE get 10 points close out of the 16 points difference. So at the moment, there's a lot going to be happening, followed by also Takubu 4 points. And so actually, it will go down to a 2-point gap at the moment. See everybody lining up very nicely. What I'm surprised by is that nobody's actually DNF. 12.4 PB. Quite nice, Timmy. Fair enough to you. Fair enough to you. Well done on your 12.4, making me feel slow. But we should be getting underway in the next... I think we'll be getting underway next lap, because I don't think Sonic's going to catch in time. But you can see a couple of drivers slowing down. No, safety car is in this lap. Safety car is coming in. There's a bit of a bit of a thing happening further back. A couple of drivers being held up. So here we go. We're going to be getting going. And it's Safas Fly to lead us around this track. He's currently led 100% of this race. ABE leading many of the laps so far in the last 2 races. They've led almost every single lap. I think apart from 4 or 5 laps that they've actually led. So far, they've done quite well. But oh, Safas Fly! He spins it off of the exit of the final corner, gifting the lead to Welsh Jack. What has happened there? As he has gone round in the final corner, Welsh Jack leads through turn 1. CIE find themselves back on the top step of the podium. Can see some fighting further back. TTR Elite making his way past Ellis the Geekin. Takubi trying to make his way past as well. What has happened there to Safas Fly from the lead to the last position in the grid? It has all gone wrong for ABE now, except for Takubi, who is actually chasing down some drivers now. He's on those medium tyres, so everything could be fixed because he's on those medium tyres, but we'll have to see. Already some gaps opening up further ahead. Rising Moon struggling to keep up with the front 2 because it is already over a second difference between P2 and P3 to the front 2, already making a bit of a difference compared to the rest. But we'll have to see later on whether those guys want to push. But you can see AMS Speed. He's all over the back of Welsh Jack. Riding on board, you can just see he is pressuring him. And especially because AMS Speed is on the hard tyres, while Welsh Jack is on those lovely mediums. As you can see, Speed sets the fastest lap. He's going to get the slipstream heading down towards turn 1. He's going to move to the right. Is he going to make a move? He's still going to be there. He's still going to be there, but he's going to back out in the end and let the man of Welsh Jack continue to lead the race. But looking further back, Takubi gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Scorzy has made his way up into P3 in this race. So very strong there from Gorzi. That's a move that he needed to make, and that could be a good podium for, I believe that would be for TIR, if I'm correct, or AERO. I'm not 100% sure. Do not quote me on that. As you can see, oh, and there's some contact further back. There's a massive collision further back. Callum, 75, severe collision, 10-second penalty. I think he's taken somebody out. Has he? Takubi finds himself down in P15 with the penalty. Callum, I don't know what's just happened. He's got wing damage. I don't know what's just happened there. But it doesn't matter what's happened because everything is still falling apart for the team of... I think that is for the team of... Is that TIR? I think it might be. Might not be, as there's a man that's gone round. It's Patrick. He's gone round on the final corner. Many drivers spinning on the final corner here. Many drivers not happy with it. But you can see 12 NTN trying to make his move. He's going to go round TTRE Henry to make it up to P6. Elite gets a 3-second time penalty. There are already many penalties coming into place. Takubi and Callum both in the pits. But what has happened there between those two towards the back? But, to be fair, Safas Fly is actually finding himself back up into... he's getting close to the top 10, already P13. But you can see NTN trying to hunt down the man of TTRE Elite. 12 Esports on for another really strong finish and currently on for another 10 points in their campaign. Wards gets a 3-second time penalty. Everything is going on at the moment. Wards, is that another? I'm not sure whether that's another penalty or the same one. But Speed, after all of those collisions, we missed it. And I do apologise to AMS and to AMS Speed himself. We missed the change for the lead as AMS Speed leads the race now once again. AMS hoping for back-to-back victories here in Tier 1. They lead the championship by 16 points. And it looks like their championship lead might just keep on growing at the moment. It is currently the longest they have led any championship, by the way. This would be the longest they've led any championship. Before, they only led the championship out of one race, and that was round 1. If they continue to lead the championship out of Imola, that means, yes, it does mean that AMS will have a longer streak of leading a championship, which is a crazy thing to say. But still, it is good for AMS. They were jilted last season. It all fell apart. Welsh Jack gets a 3-second time penalty. That's not going to help his sins in this race of being P2. And that's not going to help him at all. Because now, he could be finding himself down to P4 and losing more points to AMS than he would want. We saw at the start of the season in round 1, CIE looked like the team to be chasing after. But since then, it's all sort of turned on their head at the moment. Everything's just been turned around from great luck of winning to it all falling apart. Takubi's gone off track. Or is that is Takubi, by the way. He's gone off track. Yellow flag. Saffas Fly gets a 3-second time penalty. So many drivers getting penalties at the moment. And now, you can see DRS open. Welsh Jack chasing after the opportunity of potentially taking the lead of the race once again. He was leading earlier, but it's not going to happen just yet. We look further back. 12 NTN. He's just made the move for P5. And that is actually a really strong move. And that will ultimately help him for later on in the race. A lot of drivers' penalties. Saffas Fly has just found himself back up into P11. And with the two drivers in front of him, they are battling at the moment side by side into the next section. Who's going to come out on top? This is allowing Saffas Fly to get an absolutely amazing run on these two. We've got some battling in front. We might be looking at Saffas Fly. Let's run on board with Saffas Fly. Gio with how did he lose? 2 seconds in 2 sectors. But now we are looking at Saffas Fly chasing after the rest of the drivers. You can just see Alpha Kevin at the moment, near on 7 seconds behind P8. So there is a gap definitely opening up. Takubi is sadly our first retiree of this race. And ultimately the reigning Drivers' Champion not having the same luck as he did last season. Nowhere close to having the same luck as he did last season. Because at this point, he had won a race. In round 3, by the way, just a bit of nostalgia for you guys. In round 3 of season 1, he won his first race of the season and took the first non-FGE victory of season 1. And we've got some battling further back. And that's Saffas Fly, actually, coming out on top of this 3-way battle for P9. And that's now allowed Saffas Fly to now at least score 2 points. But with his penalty, he'll drop back outside of the top 10 unless he can make that gap. And I do believe he's got the strength to make that gap because they are battling once again behind. Once again, the battle over P10 never stops. And already over a second gap between P10 and P9. So this could be a bit of an easier one, of course, for Saffas Fly. He might be able to still come away with some points in the end. We look further ahead, though. Sonic gets another penalty. It's not going. Again, this race. What do I say about it? It's not going DLR FP1's way. No way has it gone their way. I think, yeah, Sonic's missing a piece of his front wing. Seems like it a bit, but I'm not sure. He's following quite well, actually. So I'm not sure. But Sonic, DLR FP1 looks like it could be another day of no points for them, as there's a move for the lead, and that was Jack retaking the lead of the race. And ultimately, I have to say, we've already had 3 different drivers lead this race, but it's been a bit of a wobbly exit for Welsh Jack. He's got the AMS driver of AMS Speed all over the back of him, but it's not going to be a move yet. Is it going to be a move into the hairpin? Is he going to go for it around the outside? Does he have that extra grip? It is lap 10 out of 32. We're about a third into this race already. And it is just spicing up. Currently, we still have a 4-way fight for the victory, by the way. It's still a 4-way fight. And it is 4 different teams fighting for this victory at the moment as well, remember. So it is all still coming down to the wire. But you can see riding on ball with AMS Speed, you can just see how how these hard tyres are just faster than the mediums at the moment. Especially with the grip. He's just a lot faster on these hard tyres. This could be another good potential run for AMS. Heading down now into the final 2 corners. We're going to hop off board with them and we're going to be watching Welsh Jack. Sonic gets another 3-second time penalty. Those penalties are just adding up more and more. Welsh Jack also gets another 3-second time penalty, meaning he's up to 6 seconds of penalties. There goes AMS Speed. Almost. I think that was almost gauzy losing his car on the straight. I had my mouth, my hand, that was crazy. I was really scared. But AMS Speed Speed gets a 3-second time penalty. I think I'm going to see a lot of it around this track. I did say earlier on, and I did see a lot of people saying there's going to be a lot of penalties in this race, and I do agree. There is, of course, already a lot of penalties in this race. If you just have a look, already, one drive's on 9 seconds. We've already got 3 drives on 6 seconds of penalties. We've got, what, 5 on 3 seconds of penalties? So still a lot of drives. But I have to say, good start from Speed. A really good start from NTN. And also a really good start from Noxia and Alpha Kevin at the moment. All jumping up 5 or more positions. You can see Speed starting to open the gap between him and Welsh Jack. Over 3/4 of a second difference now between P1 and P2. Started to open the gap. He's wanted to get ahead. Ultimately, he's about 1.5 seconds ahead of P3, but that's still not saving him. He needs to grow that by double for him to stay safe, to be at least P2. As Rising Moon, actually, he's making the move for P3. And there he goes, past Gauzy. And there goes the ART man back onto the podium. But by the way, with all this battling, Noxia gets another 3-second time penalty. But with all this battling that's been going on, it's actually allowed Elite to start to catch back up. We were saying about how the gap was near on, what, 4 seconds earlier? It's now halved in that time. And you can just see how much Elite is catching. He's catching quite a bit. There's little drops of rain. There's drops of rain. Rain is starting to come down here in Imola. It is all changing here tonight. Everything is changing now. Little drops of rain here and there. If you ride on boards, you can see the rain is starting to come down a bit heavier. The clouds are over the track. Over a second gap between first and second. So DRS might be gone now for Welsh Jack, which could leave him weak. Because the rain is really starting to come down. It's getting heavier and heavier with every few seconds. This still leaves a chance here tonight for something to change, for something to go absolutely crazy at the moment. Well, I guess we'll have to see very soon whether something does go very wrong. But you can see a move. Rising Moon now makes his way up into P2, and that is a swift move for ART, and they find themselves back onto the podium in Season 1. They only achieved 2 podiums across the entire season. Yes, only 2 podiums across their entire season. And they did finish P5 in the Constructors. Of course, this season, they're not looking as good. I think they're P7 in the Constructors at the moment. So they need to have a bit of a comeback. And this is exactly what the comeback is and was needed for ART here tonight. But this is... I have no words for this at the moment. Absolutely no words for this. It's absolutely crazy. It's... anything could happen now, and you can just see the rain is just picking up more and more. It's not much heavier actually than when we were looking into the final 2 corners, but the drivers are definitely taking it a bit easier, so maybe it's just what the game is showing from off-board. But you can see Noxie has found himself up into P7 from a mistake from Henry, I think, and he's going to start to pull away. This could turn some things around. This could make some things better for 12 esports. P6 and P7 at the moment. It would be very nice if they can finish in those 2 positions. Even where Noxia is, he'll still finish P8 in this race. A lot of drivers coming into the pits. Almost everybody's coming into the pits now. Everybody is coming in. 8 drivers are now in. Are we going to see P9, P10 are both coming in? Who's going to come out in the lead of the race? Let's see. Drivers are changing to intermediate tyres. Let's see who's going to come out where. Rising Moon still in second. Welsh Jack in third. We can see some changes further back. TTR Elite making his way up into P5 in the pits. So some changing going around. Noxia's down. You can see Henry's actually made his way up into P6 as well. So he's actually gained a few places as well. So 1 place and I think 2 places there. So TTRE definitely coming out as the top dogs in the pit stops. But now AMS Speed leads by almost double now. He's now 2 seconds in the lead of this race. He's got to warm up those intermediate tyres, which of course are much easier to warm up because they only need a lower temperature. But the gaps are starting to grow, and you can see definitely the grid is quite split at the moment. But I have to say, everything is still up for change. Everything is still up for debate. All of the top 10 still all in a battle over points. You can see there's a move happening further back. Noxie has now made the move on Henry for P7. And you can see this is the point in the race where it's going to come down to who's going to make the biggest mistake. Who's going to make a mistake? Who's going to change things? What's going to happen? And at the moment, a few drivers are taking advantage of this. I think this is why we also saw some slower lap times. Alpha Kevin gets another 3-second time penalty. But this is why I think we saw some slower lap times in qualifying, was because they were running maybe wet setups for the rest of the race. This could be. I don't know how the weather's going to be, but this could be how the rest of the race is potentially. Because we rolled onto lap 15 out of 32. We're almost at halfway distance through this race, and the rain only starts to come down on lap 13, remember. So we could have this rain for a little while, or it might be quite a short stint. Alpha Kevin finds himself up into P8. Henry went out on hards. He went out on hards. He's having to come back in. That's an absolute strategy, massive strategy mistake. AMSB gets another 3-second time penalty. So he's risking it, but he's picking up all of these penalties that, of course, you don't want to be picking up at this point during the race. Or really at any point, especially as the race sort of slowly draws to a close. And this is exactly the problem that maybe, just maybe, AMS might have here, especially for speed. Welsh Jack gets another 3-second time penalty. I think he's going to be up to 9 seconds of penalties now. What I'm surprised by is only 3 drivers on the entire grid have not gotten a penalty yet. So some drivers are staying very clean and staying very aware of the track limits, while others are just really struggling out there. I cannot believe that some drivers are just really struggling for penalties. You can see Welsh Jack almost trying to make a move on Rising Moon into the penultimate corner. You can see actually TTR Elite is starting to catch up to these to these 3 drivers. This little group of 3 drivers. Sonic with another 3-second time penalty once again. Yellow flag. I think that is Patrick going. No, that isn't. That is Sonic. And now heading down into turn 1, side by side, from both CIE and ART over a battle for P2 in this race. They're still going side by side. Welsh Jack is now having to defend from Gauzy. He's still going to try and make the move on Rising Moon, and he does make it work. He does definitely make that work around the outside, and that is P2 now for Welsh Jack. Gauzy is now up into P3. He's pushing his way past Rising Moon. This has allowed TTRE Elite to catch back up. Wards gets a 3-second time penalty. And this is what I mean. The rain makes things very unpredictable. There's a car that's gone off. I think that is Sonic that's gone off in this race. Let's have a look. It is Sonic that's gone off. DLR still... DLR FP1 still the only team without a point. And it looks like they'll continue to be the only team without a point, because they aren't making it anywhere. They aren't making it absolutely anywhere. Yeah, so far, Gauzy putting in a very good race so far for TIR, of course. Things going very well for them. And Wards, oh yeah, Silo, I get your pain. Wards, really struggling AMS Wards. Down in P11 at the moment, far off of P10. Doesn't look like points will be in for the chance for the AMS driver, which of course is incredibly disappointing, as we can see Saphis Fly making the move on Noxia for P7. That's exactly what he needed, but Noxia is actually coming back at him with a lot of straight line speed into turn 1. Saphis Fly, I think, is going to come out on top in this small duel between the 2 of them, but is Noxia going to try and attack again with a slipstream? You can see again the 2 other drivers behind him starting to catch up as well. So obviously Noxia is struggling in the wet weather conditions. Saphis Fly is coming alive. Oh, Silo giving us some information. As you can see, Sonic has retired from this race, meaning we only have 14 drivers left. Silo reporting that Wards has side pod damage and diffuser damage too. That's disappointing, because Wards looked like he could be, you know, earlier on he had a very rough qualifying, but he looked like he could be having a much better race. Obviously that hasn't worked out, but what I'm realizing that isn't working out is actually Welsh Jack being in P2, because he's now over 5 seconds behind the leader of this race, and it is all falling apart for CRE at the moment. CRE Welsh Jack, if we have a look at the penalty wise, he's actually going to drop down to potentially P6 in this race. So they've potentially lost a lot in this race. He will drop down to P4, then P5, and potentially P6 with that. So it looks like CIE's day, even though it looked like it might be alright, it looks like it's once again falling apart, just like it did in Mexico. They looked like they were on for a potential win, and then it's all fallen apart since. Ellis the Geekin in P10. He's trying to get MAR a point here tonight. Exactly what MAR need. Wow, Sire, talking about yourself, my good friend. But yeah, so we're going to see. Heading down, you can see into the chicane. That gap's come down slightly. Half a second has actually come out of the lap so far for speed. Now that's 6/10. Is Speed struggling a little bit now? Has he pushed a bit too much? Because Welsh Jack has now caught up by about half a second so far this lap. Near on 6/10 of a second. Maybe it's just been a bit of a rough lap for him. We'll have to see. But as Speed crosses the line to start lap 19 out of 32, the laps are coming down very quickly in this race. I do have to say, it's been very, very quick. That's how it's felt. You can see Ellis the Geekin making a move for P9, making his way up into P9, and that's a nice 2 points now for MAR. Remember, MAR only have 1 point in this championship so far, so of course scoring 2 would be quite nice for them to walk away with after a bit of a difficult season so far, a bit of a difficult debut season, especially with how they looked in the qualifiers. MAR were second fastest in the qualifiers behind. I mean, it's shocking to see how the teams have done between the qualifiers and the actual season itself and the actual races, because it's been completely turned around. AMS were very close to being knocked out of Tier 1 and being in Tier 2. I think they were safe by about, a 10th of a second. I think it was about a 10th of a second, just over a 10th of a second they were safe by. So it was a very close thing for AMS. But even though it was a very close thing for AMS, it was still, the whole problem with that was that then you saw other teams who performed reasonably well. I think AMS actually did well, sorry, and it was WR who struggled, but then they did very well in their first race, and their only race, it's sadly shut down. But in the qualifiers, I mean, we saw CIE fastest by a mile. They were fastest by, I think, about 0.3 of a second over everybody else in the qualifying, as MAR were also second. And both of them, in P1 and P2 in the qualifiers, are not within, neither of them are within the top 3 in the Constructors' Championship. Because that is currently held by AMS themselves, ABE, and of course the other team of TTRE, who all hold on to those top 3 positions in the Constructors. MAR, rough season so far, you know, they've scored 1 point. Currently, I mean, they're still on to score 2 more points this race. They're still on to take home another 2 points and take home, you know, bring themselves up to 3 points in their campaign. Still isn't a lot, you know, still isn't a lot of points compared to what some of these teams are scoring. TIR, they made their debut last race after filling in for WOR, since WR left the championship. This has now allowed TIR, they're up on the podium here. They're up on the podium. They're with a massive chance of scoring massive points. They did really well last race. I think they scored 6 points last race. I think they scored 6 points ultimately last race. And, I mean, they're now looking at a potential chance of 15 more points this race. So to bring their championship up to 21 points after only being in 2 of the 3 races is incredibly strong, of course. CIE, of course, they've appeared in all 3 races. Yet, at the moment, they're only on to take themselves to 43 points in the championship. I mean, ABE will still just be out in front, by the way. ABE will just be out in front. Because ABE, currently, Saphir's Fly, P7. This does mean, with Saphir's Fly being P7 in this race, as we can see Ellis the Geek and making a move for P8. Now, making it so maybe MAR might come away with 4 points in this race. So things are getting better for MAR. Maybe this wet weather is exactly what they needed. But as I was saying, with what points ABE are set to score, they are definitely still going to come out in P2 in the constructors, but I think just by 2 points, they're going to, I think 2 or 3 points they're going to be in that position. NTN just got a 3-second time penalty, another one. The only 2 drivers on the grid now without a penalty are Gauzy and TTRE Henry. Quite surprising to see that. I knew this track was going to have a lot of track limits. Noxia getting a 3-second time penalty. I knew there was going to be a lot of these penalties. But that's the point of the track. You try not to get these penalties. But as you can see, penalties-wise, Welsh Jack is definitely outside of the top. I think he will be outside of the top 5? Maybe. He might just finish 4th or 5th. I think he might finish 4th or 5th in this race, as it sounds. Maybe 6th at worst. If he slows down anymore, he will finish 6th. Looking at everybody else, I mean, there's a couple of 9-second penalties for like Sapphire's Fly and Ellis the Geekin. Alpha Kevin might find himself maybe up a position ahead of Ellis the Geekin. Just, it's quite mixed everywhere. We know that Henry is going to find himself up into P12 ahead of Patrick. But still, even then, bit of a tough race for some drivers, bit of an easier one for others. But there's still a lot to come. I mean, it is only round 3 out of 13 races this season, to be fair. There's 13 races in this entire calendar. As you can see, a 3-second penalty for Speed and a 3-second penalty for Sapphire's Fly. Things are just getting worse for those two. I think that does actually bring, if I'm correct, that brings Speed up to 9 seconds of penalties and actually brings back the chance of Welsh Jack winning this race. And speaking about Welsh Jack, he's been slowly clawing in the gap. He's only clawed it in by about 0.4 of a second in the last about 6 laps. He's only clawed it in the last 5-6 laps by only about half a second at the moment. But it's still half a second that he's been clawing in. Gauzy, though, is actually starting to close up to him at the same time. Of course, Gauzy at the moment is on for a TIR victory. He's on for his first victory of the season and to become the 3rd team to win. I know that the gaps are quite big across the grid. I could just see it on the mini-map. There is such a massive gap between everybody at the moment. But remember, rain is one of the biggest things that are affecting the drivers at the moment. That is definitely, I think, the biggest thing that's affecting the pace difference because it was much closer earlier. On top of that, as well, it's a track like this. It's just a track. But we're going to see, as you can see, Welsh Jack throwing the car and almost drifting it through the corner. Quite interesting to see there. But Welsh Jack at the moment, the man that I should be looking at and I should have been speaking about a lot more today is Gauzy. This man has had one hell of a race that there's no denying. He's had a really good race. There's absolutely no denying that he's not had a good race. Gauzy currently being in P3 and currently on his way to win this race due to the penalties for everybody else. Unless they get penalties removed, but at the moment, Gauzy could be looking on his way for a massive win and a massive TIR victory, of course, which will absolutely boost them up in the standings, bring them to 31 points in the standings, instead of, if he finishes where he does, he will only bring them up to 21 points. So I have to say, it's close because penalties are the thing that are affecting drivers at the moment and are making everything different. Compared to the last 2 races, penalties haven't been the biggest thing. There's been a problem for drivers because a lot of drivers have gone, yeah, we're going to finish it. But because so many drivers have penalties, they're still trying to fight for things. There's a fight for P4. 3 drivers in this fight for P4 at the moment. Rising Moon, TTR Elite, and 12 NTN. They're all fighting for this position. There's a bit of a fight for P2, but this is the closest battle currently with 3 drivers on the grid, all battling for these positions. Only I think it's 8 or 9 laps left of this race now. Only 8 or 9 laps left. How many seconds does P6 have? This is actually something interesting that I actually want to look at. He has 6 seconds of penalties, so he does have 3 more seconds of penalties. But like I said, track limits are difficult round here. So Rising Moon and Elite are both on for the battle for P4. But 12 NTN isn't, but it's all about track limits. This is the whole point of this. It's always track limits. It's always looking at the track limits. It's always checking whether everything is going to be fine or whether it's not going to be fine, what's going to happen. And this is something I've always said about, as you can see, Ezdegeek getting another 3-second time penalty. I'm actually worried somebody might get disqualified. But I've always said this about tracks like this. It's really difficult. As you can see, Welsh Jack gets another 3-second time penalty, which now brings him, I think, to 12 seconds of penalties in this race, which means he will most definitely finish down in P6 at the moment. So this is going to be a massive loss for CIE. Their troublesome problems with DNFing and penalties are exactly what has cost them in the last 2 races. Penalties and just ultimate problems altogether have just really been a problem for them this season. You know, Welsh Jack was looking at a victory at the beginning of this race. He was looking like he could win this race and take another win for CIE, but it doesn't look like it's going to be. It looks like it's only going to be maybe a P6 finish at the end of the day, which of course is exactly what you don't want to have. You don't want to have that such bad finish. 14 drivers left in this race. I hope everybody's having a great day. I hope everybody is having a great week as well. Also, if you guys are enjoying, please think about subscribing and leaving a like. And also click on the notification bell because of action like this with 12 NTN making the move on Elite. That was an important move for him. And that's an important move up the order to P5, which could just confirm him in P6. And that's exactly what he needs. AMSB gets another 3-second time penalty. But like I said, make sure to click on that notification bell. Also, check down in the description down below because we have our Discord link down there. Also, so come and join us if you guys want to get more of a bit more of a behind the scenes look at what we do here in FRLT. And also, make sure to follow us on Twitter for any other information other than streams, as we do post quite a bit on Twitter, about 3 times a week actually, so we're not doing too bad. But back to the action on track. I know there isn't huge amounts everywhere, but there is this little battle here between these 3. In these wet weather conditions, it is said that the wet weather conditions will last till the end of the race. I'm just looking at it. I actually decided to go and have a look. And I don't think these conditions will stop in the end by the time the end of the race comes around. So it looks like this will be how the rest of the races when it comes down to weather. But whether it be how the rest of the races when it comes down to racing, maybe not. Gauzy's had a bit of a difficult lap. He's struggling a bit. He's dropped behind, a bit further behind Welsh Jack. But Welsh Jack has actually caught back up. He's within 4 seconds now of the race leaders. There is now actually a genuine battle for position there. Rising Moon, though, still battling with NTN. TTR Elite really struggling now to keep up with 4th and 5th. He's falling really far behind. He's 1.7 seconds, 1.6 seconds, even just now, 1.5 seconds behind the 2 drivers in front of him. So he's losing out time there. He's struggling. Gauzy is, this lap, he's actually keeping up a bit more with Welsh Jack. He's got to make sure he doesn't run out on the track limits or he might ultimately lose his victory here tonight. And that is exactly what he wouldn't want. Coming down now, up the hill very quickly, now heading down towards the chicane. The right, left, it's all about speed. He's going to throw the car in safely and nicely. Make sure not to go over the track limits, keeping it safe. This is exactly what drivers need to do. They need to make sure they don't give themselves warnings when they don't have to. He's currently 5.6 seconds off of the lead, which still means he will win this race. Pretty much nothing can stop him from winning this race now. So it's looking like he could be on for a really strong finish here tonight and a really good finish for TIR. I mean, a win in only their 2nd race this season. But it's not that I actually want to be looking at. It's this that I want to be looking at, and that's NTN trying to make the move on Rising Moon into P4. He's going to make Rising Moon go deep. He's made him go deep. He's made him go really strong. He's made him struggle quite a bit through the first 3 corners. He's stuck behind him though. He got a bit blocked there by that car. Henry gets a 3-second time penalty. Now Gauzy's the only driver on track not to have a penalty. Now 12 NTN trying to make the move. Is he going to try and go around the outside? There's a yellow flag in the final sector. I don't think that's a move yet. I think that is Patrick who's gone off track. He's got wing damage. And DLR FP1's day just gets worse and worse and worse for them. It just never seems to improve for DLR this season, as Patrick now retires from the session. He is done, And that is ultimately DLIF P1's day done at the same time. It's disappointing to see that, of course. DLIF P1, they had a double DNF in round 1. They're having a double DNF here in round 3 as well. It's just a really disappointing one, I have to say, for DLIF P1. Really thought they would come away with something maybe a bit better than they did. But once again, we're going to see 12 NTN trying to make his move down the pit straight. He tried it last lap. It didn't work. He's going to try it again. Heading down the pit straight. He's going to choose that outside line again. He's going to have the slipstream. He's using his ERS. Round the outside. He's going to try and make a move. He's going to try and make Rise of the Moon go deep. He does. He goes to the right-hand side better. He's now going to go to the left-hand side better, but he gets a bit of slip on the rear. The grip is not entirely there for the 12 esports man. He doesn't make it work. And he's going to have to wait further behind as he continues to slide around on track. But this is still all there. It's all up for debate. Everything could still change. There's still a lot to happen in this race. But one of the things that is yet to happen is something a little bit further back. And that is TTR Elite getting a bit of revenge and potentially trying to make his way back up into P4 and face some big points and get 4 points for TTRE again, which at the moment will keep them in 3rd in the Constructors, by the way. Yes, they will finish 3rd in the Constructors as it stands. So it's all about it now. It's all coming down to these last few laps as we're going to come round to actually see the race leader speed as he's going to start the final 3 laps of this race. It's been a long, long race for these drivers, but it's been an incredibly fun and enjoyable race for me to watch. And now heading down to turn 1, turn 2, you can see that AMS card not steady on the rear, really struggling a bit because Welsh Jack is catching up a lot. He's just 2.8 seconds behind the AMS driver. Patrick already out. He now leaves the session. It's disappointing to see 3 retirements and us with only 13 drivers in the end. Of course, as I did say earlier, we did have a bit of a problem. There was Xbox servers were down, yet they were saying that they weren't down. So sadly, a lot of Xbox drivers not able to join. We were able to get, I think 2 drivers in. 2 Xbox drivers in, or 1. Yeah, we did get 1 driver, I think. But we didn't get anybody else. So ultimately, it was a bit pick and choose. I think it is just purely UK servers. So if that problem is still going on, it is quite disappointing. Of course, it has darkened and slightly ruined the evening for some teams as their lineups were either partly Xbox or at least just slightly Xbox, half their lineups, which meant they had to change their drivers at late notice. Callum75 has just made a move because Wards is round. Wards into the wall. He's made a bit of a habit of that tonight, in the back of a car, hitting the back of another car, and now hitting a wall. Things are just not going right for AMS. They've had a bit of a slippery and bit of a disappointing evening here. Our constructors standings leader, AMS, not working well for them. One driver down in last and 13th, yet the other is up in the lead of the race. This race has really been almost a complete opposite of last race for AMS. Last race they won and they got, P1, P4. It was a really strong race, really big amount of points, 40 points. This race has not worked out at all for AMS. P1, yet they might drop down to P5 or possibly P6 in this race. And Wards, of course, 13th and outside of the points. So everything has just been going wrong. But we're going to be heading to the final lap of the race. There's only, 2 more corners left until we reach the final lap of this 32-lap race. It's lap 31 out of 32. As you can see, Wards now retires in the pits. Not sure why. I understand why. I'm just not sure why he wouldn't finish with only 2 laps left. Speed is going to cross the line for the final time. He's going to cross the line for the second to last time in this race. Make sure to get that right. Now, heading down the pit straight, we're going to see him take these corners for the final time. This complex of turn 1, 2, and 3 heading through here. Now, I do have to say, we've actually spent more of the race. We've actually spent 17 laps on the intermediates. 12 NTN, though. He's made the move into P4 in this race. And that's an overtake I did not expect to see out on track on the final lap. I thought he was going to stay behind. I thought there was a bit too much of a gap. But no, he's going to be in P4 as he really wants to be there. NTN gets another 3-second time penalty. He slipped around there off of the exit through the quick left and right. Now, heading up the hill. It's still a big gap, but can NTN still potentially score points here? Can he get still big points? Hopefully he can get P6 in this race. That's going to be his hope. Maybe he won't, maybe he will. Well, I guess we'll have to see. But you could just see there's a gap now building. I don't think we're going to see another overtake, but we're going to take our eyes to the leader of this race, the man who's been leading for pretty much about 85% of this race. 85-90% of this race. AMS Speed has led, and he's going to come out of the final corner. Even though he has 12 seconds of penalties, he's going to come out of the final corner and cross the line first to win. Welsh Jack is going to stay behind him, but it's going to be Gauzy to be the man who ultimately wins here tonight for TIR. It is victory for them in their second race. Rising Moon finds himself P2, and it is a saviour for AMS Speed because he finds himself P3 and still on the podium by 46 thousandths. He missed out on P2. Elite finishes 4th, another 12 points for them, followed by Welsh Jack in 5th, NTN in 6th, Sapphire's Fly down, and Speed DNF'd because he left the session a little bit too quickly. We know he's P3, by the way. We know he's P3. It will still count. Don't be worried, anybody. Don't be worried. He'll still be P3. It's just a bit of a glitch. But what an absolute amazing day. We're going to see the final 2 drivers cross the line. Sadly, no points for Henry or Callum here tonight. But that is that. Whew, what a race that was, especially at the end. And what a massive victory for TIR it is. It is absolutely crazy. And another podium for AMS this season as well. They're taking on a 3rd podium of the season for them. 3 out of 3, as you can see. Top step of the podium for TIR. So let's have a look at the order of the grid at the end of the race. Gauzy goes from 6th to 1st. What a day for TIR. In only their 2nd race, they pull off a victory. And that is a victory for Gauzy and a massive win for TIR, which will pull them much closer to the championship leaders. Rising Moon, great finish for ART here tonight because he finishes P2 and on the podium. TTR Elite, he didn't finish P3, he finished P4 because Speed was P3. He finished P3 with his penalties. It's just he sadly DNF'd a little bit too early. So Elite finishes 4th, Welsh Jack finishes in 5th, NTN in 6th, Sapphire's Fly in 7th, Alpha Kevin in 8th, Ellis the Geekin in 9th, Noxia in 10th, and TCRE Henry and Callum both outside of the points with our retirees being Amos Wards, Patrick, Sonic, and Kubi, all DNFing from today's race. So some slight disappointment there, of course, for the teams. It's not, for some teams, it's a slight bit of disappointment. For others, of course, it isn't. It's been a pretty decent day, of course. TIR coming out on top. Same for AMS, a very productive day for them along with ART. There's going to be some celebrations for all of those 3 teams on the podium. Also for TTRE, again, I think they got P4 in their first race. P4, I think they got P3, of course, last time, and P4 again. So getting in very nice amount of points so far in their campaign, especially from Elite. It's very much coming all from Elite. So, it is that time of the stream to say goodbye. But before we go, let me remind you of the calendar for the rest of the season. We've done Belgium, we've done Mexico, and today we can tick off round 3 in Imola. Next week, on the 9th of the 7th, we will be going to COTA in America, in Austin. We'll then be going to Austria for the next week, followed by Abu Dhabi. We will then, after round 6, be taking a break week, sadly. Yes, I know, a break week. We will then go to Hungary, Great Britain, China, Italy. Then we will go to Brazil, take a break week then, as then we return to Saudi Arabia, and then Japan to finish off the season here in Season 2. But ultimately, that is the end of the stream. I hope everybody has enjoyed it. Please think about subscribing and leaving a like. It means a lot to everybody here in FRLT, not only me, but Cots and just everybody who helps. Also, thank you to all of the drivers and managers for allowing this to actually happen, because without them, we wouldn't have any racing, of course. Also, go and follow us on Twitter. The link is down below. Also, come and join our Discord server if you want to get a little bit more behind the scenes action. If you want to see it from a little bit of a different angle of the actual server itself. Ultimately, thank you so much. I hope everybody has a great week. Don't forget, we return tomorrow night at 8 p.m. for Tier 2. And then once again on Sunday at 8 p.m. and at 7 and 8 p.m. for Lobby 1 and Lobby 2 of our Fours Championship. Ultimately, thank you so much for watching. And I will see you very soon. Bye. And Sundays, but here we are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights.
Humans, what have you learned? I was programmed to beat you.